Welcome to another episode of Key.io Bite-Sized Bits, where we serve up bite-sized ideas to help you unlock your true potential. Today's topic, we're talking about living in the space between safe and dangerous. And this is a topic for anyone who's a top performer in a particular field will be very familiar with, and it's been something that I've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to learn as I, in certain areas of my life, and try and figure out how do I apply those in other areas to grow. And all of you should be very able to do the exact same things in your life. So my name is Luke Summerfield. I'm coming to you today. You can see behind me from Harvard Yard in Cambridge, Massachusetts, USA, just down the road from where I live here in the States. So we're going to talk about in the context of this little area, this mindset of, on one area we have over here, which is the world of safety. These are the things that we're used to, the things that we're comfortable with. We can go through without too much mental load in terms of having to process, having to figure out what we need to do. And then over here, we have this area of unsafe, right? So this is dangerous. You know, take it too extreme, you get to the point of death. But obviously, scaling back in, there's different levels of that. And what I want to talk about is how do we build a life or area in our lives where we want to grow by living in this middle ground. On this side with safety, it's very, very hard to grow. When you are comfortable, when you are safe, when you're not pushing yourself to take the leap into something new, that's where you start stagnating, you start settling, and you no longer grow. And of course, we don't want to get this far where we run into danger. We want to stay right in this middle ground. Now, let me start by telling you a little bit of a story, a little background on this, on how I learned what this feeling is and how it helped me grow, which then once I learned this concept, applied it to other parts of my life. So some of you who know my background, I compete and train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And when first starting out, just getting into the gym in the first place was a challenge, right? You watch the UFC, you see all these people fighting, it's kind of intimidating. And so even taking the step from this world of safety where you're watching it on TV, you're watching the UFC, you're watching jiu-jitsu videos on YouTube, to taking that step and getting out of that safety zone over here and moving into this kind of world of excitement but also scared, and those feelings and those emotions of excitement versus scared, that's kind of the first step, is getting into the gym. Now, for those of you who are able to make that leap, and we'll talk in maybe future episodes about how to make that leap in the first place, once you get into that area, the interesting thing about this space of safety and danger, excitement and fear, is that as you're inoculated to these areas, as you're living in this zone of safety and fear, all of a sudden you start growing. You start learning. Like the gym, in my jiu-jitsu story, the gym wasn't so scary anymore. I got to know people. They started helping me out. It turns out they're not all slugging each other in the face. They're learning, they're growing, they're practicing a lot of technique. And so now my world of safety, which was here, moved over a notch. And I'm over a little bit further in terms of where I feel safe. I now feel safe in that gym. Now, to take that one step further, the next step is, okay, let's go compete at tournaments. I want to grow. I want to get better at jiu-jitsu. That's an area in my life I want to focus on. How do I get better? Let's go compete at tournaments. And so now we start to move from this area of safety, which now is the gym, into this new area of dangerous, but safety, dangerous, and kind of the space between there where I'm excited and I'm fearful, which is going and doing your first tournament. And so I started doing white belt tournaments, and at first got beat up, and that was part of the game. As you go to these tournaments, you get beat up, but I was starting to, again, inoculate myself to that environment, to those emotions, to those things that I needed to rise and grow to in order to be comfortable in that little space, and eventually started winning tournaments, started winning white belt tournaments, and getting really, really comfortable. And now, guess what happened? That area of safety expanded, and now I felt safe. I felt better in that little area. Now, that's not to say you don't always have jitters and you don't always have performance things that you have to work through, mental barriers, of course. But at least my window of safety was comfortable there, and so. The last little example I'll give you is once I got safe in that little zone of white belt tournaments, Now what I did was I started competing at blue belt level as a white belt. So I still was a white belt, but I would jump up to the next division. And of course, I jumped to the next division. Again, I'm moving from that window of safety into that window of scared and fearful, but yet excited. It was exciting to go compete with these better competitors, and of course, the first couple tournaments I'd get just beat up, just mopped around the mat, and then I continued to push myself, continued to grow, and all of a sudden it started getting more comfortable until I started winning some tournaments as a white belt. I'd place third place as a white belt and blue belt. Eventually get promoted to that blue belt, and then you're competing in the blue belt division. So I tell this story as just an example of how, for me, I was able to learn this concept of being very mindful of what is your safety zone, and how can I pick one step outside my safety zone in an area that I want to grow. And so that's what I'm asking for you to do, is to think about the areas in your life that you want to pursue, you want to grow, you want to get better at, and start to determine, write down, journal about where is that safety zone. And then think, what do I need to do in the next 2 to 3 months to push myself outside of that safety zone, to move myself into that little area of fear but excitement? And how do I start inoculating myself and getting myself into that on a regular basis, so that it no longer, my safety zone can expand, and it's no longer that zone of scared, but now a zone of comfort. And then, of course, you have to repeat the exercise and say, okay, what's the next thing? And it's interesting because once you've learned that concept, you can start applying that to all different aspects of life. Now, learning that originally in jiu-jitsu, now when I think about my career, or when I think of speaking, some of the speaking engagements I did, I started off, scared as heck, trying to do these little 25-person local speaking things, and just started doing more and more of those. And once I got comfortable with those, then it's like, okay, now I want to get 100-person speaking gigs, and then 200-person speaking gigs, now 1,000-person speaking gigs in other parts of the world or other parts of the country. And so it's very interesting how that exact same concept, that exact same framework of how to map where you're safe and where you're, that zone of uncomfort in jiu-jitsu now has been applied to other aspects of my life. So, little bite-sized bits for you. I'm going to give you a homework activity for those of you who are listening and say, well, I want to do that. I'm a little scared to make that whole jump into whatever area of life that you want to improve on. Here's a really easy exercise for you to be able to do this and start seeing the power of this. So I learned this. I do the Wim Hof method. For those of you who aren't familiar, just search Wim Hof method, and it is a kind of a method for breathing, between breathing exercises, actual physiology exercises, and then cold immersion to help try and push your body into new limits. And one of the exercises that they do there is the cold shower exercise. And this is a really great way for you to slowly start pushing yourself past those boundaries and see how much you can grow in a very safe environment, just taking a shower. And so the way you do this is every morning when you shower, the last minute of the shower, turn it into cold water, as cold as the shower will go. And the first couple times you did this, so when I did this, first couple times I went through this, I would touch the water and I would instantly be like, ugh, and completely pull myself out of it and just be totally frozen to death. And I'd slowly inch my way in, 1 inch at a time until, maybe my leg was covered. And that was all I could do for that point. And at that point, I flipped it back to hot and continued through the rest of my day. And slowly but surely, as I started doing more and more of this, and I started learning how to relax, I started getting comfortable with the feeling. Now it's like, okay, now I can turn it on to just my arm, and now I can turn it on and get my entire body wet. And then a week later, all of a sudden, I can flip it on and not have any type of emotional reaction, kind of stay very even keel in terms of the things going through my brain and all that as this cold water is being sprayed on you. And so this is a great exercise for you to do to start seeing the power of little bit of bite size every week, exposing yourself to those scary, those painful, those emotions, and how over time you can very quickly adapt. Your body's very adaptable, your mind's very adaptable, how very quickly you can overcome those things and grow. And then, of course, from there you can go on to ice baths and all those things in terms of that. But that's a very good exercise to get a taste for this, which then will hopefully help you make the jump in whatever aspect of your life that you want to improve on in actually putting into practice in that area. So thanks for listening. Hopefully you got some good golden nuggets. If you appreciate this topic, if you think your friends would like this topic, please share out this content out to your friends. Make sure you subscribe to either the YouTube channel or the podcast. We have both of them, depending on the format you prefer, for more bite-sized bits and bite-sized inspiration. And check out key.io, key with 2 Y's, keyy.io, for even more tools, resources, and training to help you unlock your true potential. Thanks, and talk to you soon.